guys, and what's up? We are coming to you right now from our studios here at Kelsey's house, and we are going to talk a little bit. Now, this isn't a live show, so you're going to be watching this, playing this back, because I know you want to hear what happened at Cherokee and some of the details, but you also want to know what's going on down at Douglas right now, and we're going to try something new. We're going to try to get an on-the-water call going, Kelsey, and see if we can give you all some real-time updates, even though this video will go out this afternoon, this evening. But we're going to try to get you all some real-time updates from the water with some people that we know that are out there right now slinging some baits at them and seeing what they can find. So that might be a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Knowing our luck with technology and how things go, it'll probably be an epic disaster, but we are going to give it a try. Okay, we're going to give it a try. So
we're just here to entertain.
That's it. Like, whether you laugh at us, laughing with us, don't really care either way. As long as you all are entertained, that is the goal. So, Kelsey, Cherokee Lake absolutely shook up the point standings. And it's kind of your fault.
Yeah, it's my fault.
It's kind of your fault. If you would have just brought in one of those stupid little fish that's swimming down there in Cherokee Lake.
Didn't catch the right size of stupid little fish.
Sometimes they're frustrating. That is true. That is true. So, anyways, with that tournament, Cherokee, it was tough. I mean, even the people that called them didn't. I don't think anybody would sit there and say that they were just rolling through keepers and culling out and stuff. Now, caught a lot of fish, or at least I did, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. And I know you all caught some fish too. It wasn't like it was those just stagnant days where you don't get a single bite and you go home wondering like, I don't even know what else to try.
Yeah, I'd say we caught 17 to 18 fish.
Okay, and that was kind of the same for us. And that's what was so frustrating is the fact that you're getting bit. So what you're doing is working to get bites. How do you get yourself out of that rut so that you're continuing to make adjustments and you're continuing to make those changes that you need to make? Because it's so easy when you're getting bites to just keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So we're going to talk about our day a little bit at the end of this, but first let's get to what y'all really want to hear about, and that's our top three. So guys, our top three here, I've got it written down. I'll look at my notes here really quick. So we had Hodges and Lester in first place with 1061. Then we had Crockett and Uller in second place with 979, and then Fegans and Thomas with 748. Okay, so it wasn't a super drastic jump necessarily between the top three. But again, those weights were definitely lighter than what we had thought. I think we predicted somewhere in that neighborhood of 13 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And based on what I had seen in practice, I would have really felt similar. Like, we had a decent day, Crockett and I, down there. And you all will be able to see that when I put out the Chasing Ghosts video about Cherokee later. And I really thought it was going to be easier than it was. Now, there was definitely pressure out there. Lots of boats running around, which may have had an impact on it. TVA was pulling the lake down really quick. So water levels constantly changing, temperatures changing. We have the bait moving around a lot. But these guys definitely figured it out. And when I looked at the results and I had them fill out that form, I thought it was really funny, Kelsey, because you had one that was focused German Creek down. You had one that was focused in what we would refer to as the middle there with German Creek to Falls Creek, and then you had one up. Now Hodges and Lester, I figured they'd go up, which is where they did their damage. And their biggest thing they were really kind of junk fishing. On here it says that they had 2 on a bandit crankbait. They never had anything on topwater. They had 2 on a bandit crankbait. They had 2 on a rattle trap, and then 1 on an A-rig. So they said really just kind of to junk fishing around. And I really thought, I know the A-rig, Andy likes that A-rig.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it'll play even more so for him as we go into Douglas and Watauga. But they kind of junk fish their way around there. And then you had second place with Crockett and Uller. Said they caught some on the spook early off of points, and then they ran to the back of an island or to a main lake island there, found some bait balls, and they continued to throw a crankbait, and then they would run that below those balls of bait or through those balls of bait and caught some fish that way. So one thing that I kept hearing here from Crockett, from Hodges, and then also down here, we hear again bait fish. this one would be Larry Thomas and Lynn Fingans, is that they found bait fish stacked near open water off secondary points and caught 2 on a crankbait. There's that crankbait again. Crankbait, crankbait, crankbait. So they were just hanging around that. Then they moved below German Creek. So they kind of made an adjustment and moved lower on the lower lake, caught 1 keeper and then many non-keepers, they said, on a 3XD on River Rock. So you've got a Bandit crankbait there, which I would figure that'd probably be like a 300 series Bandit, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe a 200 series. Because they said Andy Hodges and Keith Lester said they caught their fish in 0 to 5. So they were dirt shallow further up the lake, which typically that's going to happen. You're going to have cooler water temperatures. You're going to have those fish maybe moving up into those shallows a little bit quicker. But again, throwing a super shallow crankbait, then that 3XD is going to run a little bit deeper. But Lynn and Larry did say that they caught theirs in more of that 5 to 10 range. Mm-hmm. So they were down the lake as well. So again, further down the lake, we saw more of a 5 to 10 kind of depth range. And up the lake, it was a little bit shallower. Larry and Lynn say 6 to 8 foot of water for theirs. So other than, we did see some spook action there for the second and third place, but there wasn't much top water. Did you all throw a top water a lot?
Threw it, never had the first blow up.
And see, that was what was throwing me off so bad from practice is Crockett and I, when we were down there, we had quite a bit of luck on the spook. That's what our better fish came on. Now, he did catch 1 good keeper on a crankbait, but the majority of our good quality fish there on that practice day came from the spook. So as we were fishing, I kept throwing that spook and just kept working it to death, whereas Adam was throwing a crankbait. So we kind of tried to complement each other in that aspect. But I didn't. I never got the first blow up on the spook. Now, I do know that Reg talked about getting some blow ups on a long A as well. And I switched over to a long A a little bit later when the spook wasn't getting bit, just to try a different, a little more subtle approach to the top water, but I still never got anything. So again, guys, your top 3, they were kind of spread out throughout the lake. Larry and Lynn found their way kind of down towards German Creek, where Crockett and Uller were fishing as well. And they found some of that same kind of 5 to 10 foot of water is where they were finding their most active fish. But again, a crankbait was the biggest player, but you heard bait balls, bait fish. I didn't see any. So bait fish were a big key. They were near the main lake, kind of focusing on. All right. We're going to have to hold off on that phone call for a second. But that one will come in. We'll get to our phone call. I'm going to teach him how to tell time. We'll teach him how to tell time. All right. So
he's in a different time zone.
He is in a different time zone. So maybe, no, he's not. In his head, he's in a different.
That's what I meant.
Okay. He's in a different. That made me look bad because I'm like, wait a second, he ain't in a different time zone unless he's fishing somewhere else he ain't supposed to be today. Mama's gonna be mad if he's out there running around further away from home than he's supposed to be.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna get his butt whooped. So you see that the crankbait was the big player, still being around bait, and I'm sure Andy and them had bait where even though they were shallower on up the lake. And again, guys, we had a little bit of wind. So the crankbait should have been your player. I was a little bit worried when I read the forecast for Saturday that it was going to be really just dead calm. And that scared me a little bit because once it gets like that, you kind of take a few things out of play.
Oh, yeah.
So the crankbait, a little bit of topwater action for guys. But again, kind of the first parts of those creeks, those fish were just starting to make that move backwards. They were just starting to make that transition back there. And I think by the time we get to Douglas, which we'll preview that here in a little while, I think you're going to find a lot more fish further back than what we found there. And I think that's the hardest part about a tournament there at the end of October is that transition piece and the fact that those fish are in a huge movement.
Yeah, it's just a big swing.
It is just a big swing. So, Kelsey, let's talk about our day really quick because our day is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum of just not doing very well at all. And we said we caught fish. So how did y'all start out the day and what were your thoughts going in?
Started out the day trying to throw some topwater and crankbaits. That's what I was planning on doing for a good majority of the day, just trying to figure that out. Started out on a point, Rocky Point. There was another boat in there, and I watched that person catch 2 fish, and I was like, okay, this ain't going to work. Let's get out of here.
Right.
This ain't helping my mindset anyways.
And that's another big thing is keeping your mind right during a tournament like this.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, let's move on down the lake. And there was a lot of boat traffic out on the water.
Yeah.
It seemed like every spot that we wanted to go to, and I think that really messed with me, is because every spot that I wanted to fish first off,
There was somebody
there
sitting
was
there.
always somebody on it. And I mean, it was just like a revolving door. So I don't know. It just messed with me a little bit.
And I can see that. See, I told you that I knew I was spinning out, and this is one thing that guys y'all need to keep in your mind. Know what your tendencies are when you do start to spin out. And I knew that I was spinning out when I started to chunk my fishing time and think about, okay, I've got this much time left. I want to spend 15 minutes on this wall, then I want to spend 15 minutes on this wall. Oh, I'm going to skip this wall because if I fish it, I don't have time to get over here to this wall. So when I start to do that in my head, I know I'm spinning out, and that's when I have to go back to just fishing.
And I was going to say, you know how I am.
Right.
I don't move a lot.
Right. You're the opposite of me when it comes to
I burned a lot of gas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we moved a lot.
And that is definitely out
down,
of your normal.
Back and forth. Yeah. All up and down the lake.
Now I will say this. We kind of stayed in the same area. We stayed. Now I did run all the way down to the dam to try to check a couple points down there with the wind blowing, and we got some bites, but we just never ran into those keeper bites. Everything we were catching on the crankbait was 12 inches, 13 inches, 14 and a half inches, and of course, going down there and playing with smallmouth the whole time, and I knew that was coming. But the thing is, I just never. I don't know. I really just, in my mind, I just kept trudging along because I'm like, the bite's going to come. The bite's going to come.
Yep.
And it just never did, other than just that. We did have two, we caught one, had another one hit at the boat that I lost. So we had two keepers on. But again, I didn't think that it would take all day to try to get a couple keeper bites in the box.
I mean, that's the same with us. We had two keeper bites that I know of.
Really?
I mean, Dad hooks one on a crankbait, reeling it in. You see it's about a 3.5 pounder. It comes up to the surface. I mean, good sized fish, and then it just
Pops off.
And then the very next cast, he hooks into a big old gizzard shad.
Oh yeah, you need to tell this story. This one's too
He
good.
hooks into a big old gizzard shad about that long. He's reeling it in, and then all of a sudden you see this big old dark mass just come up behind it and swipe at that gizzard shad. And he's like, "What was that?" And he thought it was the fish he had, and I was like, "No, that ain't it." And then he gets it closer to the boat, and it comes at it again, and it was probably a largemouth about that long, probably about 7-8 pounds, just trying to
eat that gizzard shad. Now Kelsey had told me this story, and I told him we'd had to disqualify it anyways because he was fishing with live bait at that point. But
either way,
you shouldn't have told me the gizzard part of it first. Should have just been like, dude, we caught this thing on a crankbait. It was crazy. Came up to the boat, swiped at it.
Well, I mean, technically, if we would have caught it, it would have been hooked to a crankbait.
This is true. You just need to make sure that you do the old Kevin Van Dam and keep going back and forth with that gizzard shad until you get some hooks in the side of his head, and you're like, I caught him. He was hooked.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing.
That's
like
crazy.
We didn't know it was a gizzard shad at the time. We just knew he had a fish.
Right.
And we seen that big, huge fish coming after it. So
that's painful to watch that happen.
It was
for
fun.
Sure.
It was fun.
Well,
it was very
always
entertaining,
super entertaining, but then you go the rest of the day and you're like, man, if that fish would have just committed just that little bit more, it had totally changed your day. Because I mean, a fish of that quality is rare in Cherokee, and a fish of that quality would have put you all the way in the top 3.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day just spiraled out of control, right?
Yeah, just kept running back and forth to different spots. I mean, like I said, we moved a lot.
Now, did you throw a lot of slow stuff as well mixed in there?
Yeah, I mean, we caught them on everything. I mean, we threw crankbaits, jerkbaits, we threw tubes. I slowed down through a tube and a Kitech. I started throwing a Kitech and just slow rolling it, and I caught fish on everything. Just
not the quality we needed.
Oh, and a drop shot. Caught fish on drop shot too.
Threw a drop shot.
I threw a drop shot.
Okay, well that's cool. All right, well guys, so kind of just rehashing it really quick. So we had Hodges and Lester, Crockett and Euler, Fegans and Thomas. That was our top 3. We heard crankbaits in there in the mix, and all of those we heard probably a crankbait caught fish for everybody that was out there. Didn't hear a lot of topwater action. Any topwater action that was going on during that tournament was short-lived in the morning. But again, being around those bait balls this time of year, and that's going to continue all the way through this fall transition, and as we get closer to winter, keep an eye on that bait, follow that bait, look for that bait. If you're in a dead zone where you don't see any bait flipping, you don't see anything on your 2D or on your live scope, get out of there. I think that's the best thing to say. Get out of there. It's not active. See where that bait fish has moved to, see what's going on, and follow the bait. If you've got some wind, keep moving. I think that's one thing somebody said to you after the tournament. There's several people out there on the lake that day that we all knew and kind of got to talk to and debrief with. Keep moving when it's like that.
I mean,
and you're going to run into a keeper
that was
somewhere.
the thing. I would go down any bank with rock.
Right.
It didn't matter if it was steeper or shallow. You just get right up against that rock,
Gotcha.
and you burn a crankbait. That's all I was doing. I mean, I would reel it as fast as I could, and I'd get bit, but just couldn't run into that right size.
Just wasn't our day. Sometimes God puts them in your way, and sometimes it's just meant for us not to run into any.
Like I said, I'm not a good fisherman. I just get lucky every now and then.
Run into a couple. That's what we're trying to do. All right, guys. So that's how Cherokee played out. And as we said, Cherokee really shook up the points with the way some things went. We are going to do, I'm going to drop a points possibilities podcast tomorrow. This video that you're going to watch here this evening on Wednesday, we are going to drop a points possibility podcast tomorrow. And on that podcast, we're going to talk just kind of how the team of the year could play out here at this last event, because we wrap up our season for the team of the year at Douglas with that final regular season event. And then we might get into a little bit of how the angler of the year might play out, but there's still some things that could happen there to really shake that up at Douglas as well. So that one's a little bit further off. But the team of the year is going to be decided at Douglas this upcoming weekend. So we'll be talking about that on that podcast. So make sure that you jump in there, you listen to that. But when we come back from break, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Douglas Lake preview. We're going to be talking about the conditions. We're going to try to do on the water call. Maybe this time, watch him, he won't answer. He tried to call me already, but then he's not going to answer the phone this time. We'll talk about our predictions for Douglas. And then I want to talk a little bit about this new MLF rule change that just came out that has sparked my interest and kind of got me to where I'd probably like to watch a little bit more. So guys, here's commercials with our partners. Again, I want to thank them for all that they do for us. And then we'll be back for the second half of this show. TNCBA Real Talk Live is brought to you by Tri-City Logistics, Uncle Ray's Beyond Good, and Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union.
Today's the day to explore the journey ahead. Enjoy life's little moments, because they're all around us, in every smile and in every laugh. Cherish the moments that will last a lifetime. With a partner that lasts a lifetime. Enjoy every moment.
Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. Join us now.
All right, guys, welcome back to segment 2 of this show. So we're going to talk a little bit about Douglas here, and we're going to talk about the conditions right now. We're going to talk about our predictions. Kelsey, I'm going to let you just talk a little bit while I try to get Goober on the phone here and see, but talk about what you're thinking, talk about what you're planning on, what you're going to play out here in your head. Since you're going to go into this blind, no practice.
Yeah.
Before we talk to him, just what would you do?
So realistically, I would like to think what I thought was going to go on Cherokee would go on Douglas. I mean, I'm going to be looking more towards the pockets, looking for those looking for the bait fish, throwing crankbaits, jerk baits, things like that. Maybe some top water. We'll see.
I hope so. I want some top water to happen.
I would like to have some top water, but I'm just going to start running those little pockets off the main lake.
Yep.
And get into some of those and looking for bait fish, trying to not stay still, more or less. I'm going to move a little bit more this time of year.
And that's the thing this time of year. Move through an area, fish it thoroughly as you go, but then keep moving and just keep moving around. I agree with you, but I so want there to be a top water bite. I so want there to be some action going on. I don't want it to be catch a couple, lull.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that day where we rolled in there, dude, and just catch them all day long.
And here's the thing that's in my mind. It's like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Because I know as the day gets later, the fishing's should get better this time of year.
Yeah, as it warms up.
That's just what we've seen.
Now, the nice thing is, I mean, right now, as far as weather goes, we're supposed to have a warm night. I think it might even be close to 50, or they're in the 50s, and then I think it's supposed to warm up to like 78, 79. So it's going to be a warm day. Those fish should be getting active. All right, let's see if we can get Goober on the phone here, find out what's going on for them down on Douglas. Need you to answer your phone, man. Let's see what he has to say, if he answers the phone. Hey, you close to your phone there?
You know what?
You close to your phone?
Am I close to my phone?
There we go. That's better. Now I think they can hear you on the video. All right, so just remember you're on camera right now. So like they can hear your audio as well. So all right, so break it down for me. I know I talked to you a little bit earlier today. Don't give away any spots, but just talk about what you've seen out there on the lake, what the conditions have been, what the water temperature is, water clarity. Just run us through to this point.
Okay. It's cloudy all day. Water clarity is 3 foot maybe. Where there is shad, if the sun pops out, they come to the surface a whole lot better. Not every place that's got shad has got fish breaking in them. Nothing out on the main channel.
Okay, so that is one question we wanted to be able to answer was everything you're finding is either in the mouths, moving back that first little bit of pockets or creeks towards the back.
Correct. And you're probably 3/4 of the way back before the bait stops. It don't go all the way to the very back of the pocket.
Okay, so you're not finding them in the dead end of it, the dead gut of it, but you're finding them pretty far back.
Yes. And I think if the sun was to come out, they would come to the surface and they may be all the way back to the very back. But the majority of them stop about 3/4 of the way back.
Okay. So some topwater action this morning?
This morning, and that's it. It seemed like in some of those pockets, wood played a part.
Okay.
Since the last time I talked to you, we pulled 2 more off a tree. So that was 4 of them off wood that are in pockets.
So, but this is, I mean, we're talking individual laydowns in skinny water.
Very skinny water.
Okay. So how deep would you say the majority of these fish are coming today?
Less than 3 foot.
Okay. Now you had mentioned, so I know some topwater action this morning, caught a really nice smallmouth. And then you said you kind of switched between a rattle trap and a spinner bait, but has it been all just rattle trap and crankbait from here on out?
All rattle trap.
All right.
I've thrown spinner bait. I can't get a rise on a spinner bait and can't get a rise on any more top water.
Now, do you have much wind or is it pretty dead calm down there?
This morning was very windy.
Okay.
But it has laid down to where you just get a little bit of shimmer on the water now.
Okay.
You know, just enough to make the bait disappear when, and then when it calms down, they're everywhere.
Gotcha. But are you seeing, I know you said the bait's moving up when it gets sunny, but are you seeing any like actively feeding schooling action going on out there?
Yes.
Okay. So you are finding some fish feeding.
It's lunchtime. Yes. This last pocket we just came back in, I guess 6, maybe 7 different locations. So I know it's not the same fish.
Oh, okay.
Are busting them.
Okay. So that's a good sign for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Kelsey, I'm gonna need you.
And if we have
hold on one second.
If we have a sunny day, okay.
We're having a battery issue.
Oh no.
So are you focusing, what part of the lake are you on? Are you looking at upper end, lower end, middle?
We're between Danders and Swans.
Okay.
And no further down than that.
All right.
I think if Saturday is sunny, I think you'll see a whole lot more action. as far as bait and fish. Although there's going to be that much more boats out here too.
Well, there is. It is going to be busy, but all right, we're good now.
Okay.
But the good thing is you're finding some actively feeding fish. It's not like Cherokee where we weren't seeing anything really going on. There wasn't anything really busting or anything really schooling up.
Right.
Okay.
Like I say, where we stayed above swans this morning, nothing. Went into a lot of pockets, stayed on some main lake, little cuts, whatever. Now there was bait, on the graph, but there was nothing up on the surface. It wasn't until midday, and we came down below swans that we found them.
Okay. Have y'all gone back up above swans, or you got any plans to go back up above swans and see since it's afternoon now, maybe they've turned on up that way?
No.
Okay.
I think these areas down here look way more promising than what I saw up there.
Okay. So right now, based on just what you're seeing, a trap, maybe some top water in the morning, water clarity looks pretty good. Water's super low. Find you some skinny water with some laydowns or some timber nearby. And
with that rattle trap, are you burning it? Oh,
No.
okay.
oh, so you're kind of slow rolling it?
Mid crank, I would say.
What kind of gear ratio is that reel you're throwing? Let's put him on the spot here. Put him on some details. This will be easy. This will be easier. You tell what reel are you throwing? Is it a winch or is it an STX?
Oh, it ain't no winch.
Well, then it ain't no
winch,
5. Then it ain't no 5.4 to 1. So you're throwing probably a 6.4 to 1.
Let me see.
Now see what now we've asked him to look for something that he can't even see. He ain't got his glasses on.
8.3 to 1.
Oh my gosh! So he's like, I'm sitting here mid crank, and that thing's like.
so you're saying with the winch you need to just have a drill attached to it on high.
Well, I'm just saying if the nose of the rattle trap isn't barren of any kind of paint after the first cast, you're not reeling it fast enough.
Okay, so we'll rethink this. It's a moderate to fast retrieve. It's certainly not just a medium, because Dad ain't never done nothing slow in his life. So
This is true. But another thing is most of these have been basically throw it on the bank. Ooh, look at that and blow up.
He's killing me
Greg's
while we're
up here dancing on the front deck.
Get one, Reg. Get one, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just lay that bait right on the edge of the water.
Okay.
And then start going.
Okay. So super shallow. That's all good news to hear. Lake's way down.
Wait.
You haven't really paid it. Did we talk about water temperature? Have you seen what it is?
60. 63.
63. See, that's going to be the thing. You're going to see a big swing in those super shallow areas. It'll cool off a lot there at night, warm up quite a bit in the day. I'm shocked he's even got the graphs on. I've had to fuss at him here recently because
now I'm going to say this.
Oh, here we go.
Front graph is 72.
Oh, no. The front graph's jacked up right now. You got to pay attention to either look at the live scope or the back graph.
I have a live scope on this boat.
Oh, Lord. He
or the
probably
back one.
He's like, what are these two screens for? He's like, this other one's the TV. We sat here and watched the football game on Saturday. This is where we watched the football games on Saturday. Oh, Lord.
The back one said 63.
Okay, so it's there in the lower 60s. All right.
Right.
Well, that all sounds excellent. I'll give you a shout after I head home from
Front one
Kelsey's
says first and goal, right?
The front one says first and goal, 24 to 17 or whatever. So, all right. Well, that all sounds promising. Sounds like there's life out there. Sounds like we're going to be able to run around and do some cranking and stuff. And I'm sure other guys will figure out some different things to throw and catch some fish. But the positive is the fish are getting to that, what we'd really call a fall pattern, and starting to feed up.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that all sounds good. Y'all have fun. I will shout at you when I leave here and get some of the real details, since we're just lying to everybody here on the video. All right. You and Reg have fun, man. I'll talk to y'all later.
See you.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, dude. There we go. So we'll find out here in a little bit when we actually play this video back to ourselves if that was not absolute. Other than the battery trying to die on the computer. Hey, man.
Hey, things happen.
It is what it is.
It wouldn't
You
be.
covered like a pro, though. You kept going. You kept him talking. I just disappeared like a little minion running off over here to try to fix the problem. Anyways, all right. So with that being said, does that change your mind at all?
No,
That's still
no.
kinda,
I mean, that's still
makes me feel better though. It gives me
It
some
ma- it-
confidence that
yeah,
that's going to
get-
play in the game plan.
and the areas that he's talking about makes me feel a lot better because I mean that's the stuff I'm planning on focusing on.
And the thing that I will say is like that upper end one, Dad and I don't have as much confidence going above Swans.
Me
We
neither.
kind of live from Swans down towards Shady Grove area. That's where I'd say our confidence is. So when we roll up there above Swans, up towards Taylor's Bend and stuff, if it ain't happening,
It ain't.
we kind of bail pretty quick on it. I know there's some guys out here that they got that confidence. Like take Andy Hodges for example, him and Lester. You know, they did great. He likes to run to the rivers. That's where he gravitates towards. Don't know if that per se on Douglas. I do know on Cherokee though he likes to do that, and like that's where his comfort zone is. And he's fishing his confidence level. He's fishing his comfort area, and that works out really well for him. For me, it's not as much. But those areas up there might turn on pretty good later on in the day, like Dad's seeing with bait fish moving up in the back of the pockets and stuff like that. So, you still gonna stick?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my game plan.
I think it'll be good. I think it's
I-
gonna
I
work
think-
out.
I think it'll be fine.
I'm excited to hear that there's some fish breaking and busting. That's one thing I was missing down on Cherokee is the fact that nothing was going on.
It could be a whole different day.
Oh, it could. It could.
mean-
And that's the thing. You've got to learn to adapt to the conditions because things are going to keep changing. Things are going to be, even though that they have that, there's going to be pressure on that lake tomorrow, Friday, and then you're going to have tournaments out there Saturday. So it's going to, you're going to have to adjust. Those fish might pull out a little bit deeper.
I think that's what plays a lot more into. I think the fish are starting to be patterned by
The pressure
the pressure.
more so than just the conditions. I agree with you. I think that's a really, really good point there. The fish are being patterned more by the pressure than the conditions. And that's what we're having to learn as anglers, especially in our area where people fish a lot. And there's always a tournament. Well, I shouldn't say always a tournament. There's always 15 tournaments on every lake every Saturday. Even when you think you're getting a hunting season and there's going to be fewer people out there, it's still slam packed. So fishing and understanding what fish do with the pressure is always, or is now just as important as figuring out what fish do with the seasonal patterns and the conditions that they have. So don't get locked into that. You know, there's fish back there. Like I'm going back there first thing. Like that's what I'm going to go to do is go to the back. Then I'll work my back out and try to intercept them where they're at. I'm not going to start out at the main where they shouldn't be and then try to work my way back in there. I'm going to start at the back. I'll work my way back out towards them, towards the main, run into them somewhere, having some cover close by. But skinny water, I like that. When they start getting trapped up there in that shallow stuff and up in that skinny water,
They ain't got nowhere to go.
they ain't got anywhere to go. That's what kills me about the smallmouth on Cherokee. There's a lot of open water there to roam around those islands. And even when you're fishing 5 to 10 foot there, right behind you is 60. And they can get out there and roam wide open. They start getting back in these pockets and these creeks. That's when they start getting easy to target. So with that being said, we now know our conditions. Fairly clear water, super, super shallow bite, low 60s is your water temperature. What's your prediction? Let's see if we can go ahead and just ruin this one for everybody right now.
Being Douglas,
Being Douglas,
I'm going to say 12 to 13 pounds. And that's a good
Okay.
bag.
And from what I'm hearing from some of the other tournaments that are going on, it seems like with the transition, that's what it's kind of. If you can have in that 11 to 13 pound range, you're really doing well. You're going to be competing really well. So I agree. I think if you have 13, I think you're first or second guaranteed. I think if you're in that 10 pound range, if the bite continues like it is going for them, I think that 10 pound range is going to be real cluttered because I think there's going to be a lot of fish that are at that 2 pound quality with them kind of feeding up. So I think 5 2-pounders, I think you're going to be, it's going to be a really tight race there. I think if you can get that 1-4 or get that 1-4.5, and there definitely could be a 5 show up, but I think if you can get that 1-4 to 4.5 kicker and separate yourself that little bit, go from that 8 pound bag, put in a 4.5 kicker to 12.5, I think that's going to be the big play. So throwing a crankbait, throwing a rattle trap, a lipless. Now I will say this, we didn't ask him about what size, did we?
No, we
Because
didn't.
dad is big about throwing kind of that old school smaller 1/4 ounce trap. than he is throwing like the big half-ounce red eye. So keep that in your playbook as well, thinking about size of the rattle trap, especially with you being that shallow. That 1/4 ounce and that smaller, even the true rattle trap, that smaller chrome blueback might be killer down there this time of year. So I'm with you, Kelsey. I think if you can get yourself in that 12-pound range, I think you're going to be sitting really, really pretty. So there's our predictions, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed that on the water phone call, other than the little battery situation with the computer. We'll try to do more of that stuff in the future, calling some people in, letting them talk with us, sharing their insight, sharing what they know is going on. But then I wanted to talk about one kind of just outside of the club thing like we do each time. Okay, we always kind of throw something in. Last time it was talking about those wonderful cheaters in the walleye tournament, which did get a severe punishment. So that hopefully that deters a lot of things. But this one I wanted to talk about because this one excites me a little bit. So MLF just released here just a little while back that they're going to be making a rules change for their BPT events. So the Bass Pro Tour stuff, which is coming to Cherokee and Douglas the week right before the Classic. So East Tennessee is going to be hopping with all the pros. We're going to have BPT on Cherokee and Douglas, and then we're going to have the Classic down on Loudon. And it's going to be a great place to be if you're a fan of fishing. But for the BPTs this year, Kelsey, they are going to the best 5 fish. So tell me your initial thoughts, because you hadn't heard that yet when I told you just a little while ago. What are your initial thoughts about the BPT going away from every scoreable bass to your best 5, or what are going to count towards your standings?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to see him to go back to something. So this is not. Is this still catch and release, or is this?
Yes, it is still.
Okay.
It is still a catch and release. You're still going to be live updates. They're still going to have a marshal in the boat.
Okay.
So whatever
Best
Ott
5.
Defoe has in his best 5, everybody's going to know about it.
I think it's going to change up a lot of people's perspective on how they fish again, because with every scoreable bass, they're going out there trying to catch as many,
Right.
And sometimes they run into a good one here and there.
Now you're going to have to rethink
I think they're
that.
gonna. I think they may rethink it and go back to five bites a day.
Okay.
You
So
know,
you think you're going
I
to see
think,
like
I think you're going to see some of those guys.
those grinders come back to being
back
really
to-
good?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that was my next question. Do you think that it's going to change who we see being successful in these events? Do you think that we're going to see a big change in who is dominant? Because it's no Jacob Wheeler just blows this format out of the water with the every fish counts, the score
But
of
I
a
mean-
bass. Do you think you're going to see some different winners pop in there since it's going to go back to a 5 fish limit essentially?
I think it may shake it up a little bit, but I think you're still going to have the same ones that are.
Okay, so
I
those
do
guys
that.
are good enough fishermen. They're going
Yeah.
to figure that out. I
Well-
just wonder if you're going to see some other guys creep into the conversation that maybe never did
I think
figure out
so.
that scorable.
I think so, because I mean, it just gives them a lot better opportunity.
Because I feel like right now you've had like a handful of guys that are relevant in that tour. I think this is going to take and bring another handful of guys to the table that are going to be relevant at each tournament, since it's going to be their best 5. So I'm excited. To be honest with you, I'm really happy they're making the change for the BPT. I'm going to be more inclined to watch it now, because for me, each fish didn't matter. I know that there's situations, yes, where it played out, where it was close and it was tight, but watching somebody catch a fish did not have the same kind of weight or effect on me.
Because somebody has already caught 20 fish.
Yeah, somebody's already got 200 pounds over here, and this guy just caught a 6-pounder, but
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything because he's only caught 5 fish and he's only at 25 pounds, while the other guy's got 200 pounds.
I think it'll make the competition a lot better.
I do too.
I think it'll make it a lot better for all those guys. I think there'll be more of them that have a chance.
Right. And from what I read, like the general tire, the cups, and the heavy hitters, those types of events are still going to be every scoreable basket's weighed. So it's just those BPT stage events that they're going to be doing the best 5 from that day. So like I said, I'm really excited to see how it kind of changes things, changes the contenders, changes the complexity of each event, instead of seeing guys just blowing it out of the water with 75-pound leads because they found the mother lode of schools, and now they're really going to have to work through to figure out how to catch those bigger bass. One of the anglers, I think somebody was talking about, it might have been Jordan Lee, was talking on a podcast. He's like, you go out and catch 5 and you come back in and you brag about your best 5, but that's kind of been lost in this whole every fish counts because, again, like I said, this guy might go and catch just 5 fish and have a 30-pound bag, but that gets dwarfed because the focus is on this guy that caught 100 pounds on the day in his 30 fish or 40 fish that he caught. And that is still a great feat.
Yeah.
That is impressive, hands down.
But I've always thought it's more impressive to have 5 fish that weigh 30 pounds instead of, 30 fish that weigh
100 pounds.
100 pounds.
Right. So I think it's going to be fun to watch that. I think it's going to make it a much more interesting event to watch, keep up with throughout the season. So I'm excited about it. I like the change there. They're still going to have the cups where you're going to see that type of fishing on TV. I just feel like from a tournament perspective, I really, really like
it's more relatable to us because
and that's one thing that Jordan
format.
Lee said. He said more people can relate to the best 5 as opposed to the all fish count because we can't make that tournament style happen.
Yeah,
like they can.
We've been able to in the past. We've done it,
but it's a lot of work for us.
It's a lot of work, and it's enjoyable. I enjoy doing it because it's a lot of fun. It's exciting
for us. It's a little bit easier. It's kind of like a one-off, like head-to-head deal where both people are in the same boat, and you've got somebody sitting in there with them to keep the score. For them, they've got the resources and the means to make that happen in a 40-boat field. So it's definitely something that's easier to relate to for us, the 5 fish deal. But guys, make sure you check that out. That's a great change that they're making. The Elite Series has a great schedule for next year. Some great newcomers. Bradley Hallman qualified. John Sokup. Some other great names qualified. I just mentioned them because I've been trying to kind of keeping up with them throughout the entire season of the Opens and stuff. So there's a lot of new guys, new faces coming in through the Opens. Keith Poche announced earlier today or yesterday on social media that he's going to fish both because he did qualify for the Elite Series. So he's kind of coming back over to fish the Elites, but he's going to fish both the BPT and the Elite Series. So it's going to be a great season. And like I said, we got the BPT coming close to home when they fish Loudon or Tennessee River technically because they have Tellico and Loudon to fish. Or did I say BPT? Not the BPT. The BPT's fishing Cherokee and Douglas, which that'll be an interesting one to watch how they play that out in March. Because you could have some really big bags weighed in there. Those will be 2 good lakes that are great for that best 5 as opposed to every fish counts. And then you've got the Classic for the Bassmaster guys there on the following weekend. Well, Kelsey, are you excited for this weekend?
I'm looking for. Hey, I just get to go fishing.
You got the pressure off of you. We do have some guys. Like I said, listen to the podcast tomorrow that talks about the point possibilities for the team of the year. We've got a race that is still wide open for it's just a few teams, but Hodges and Lester, Rice and Legg, Crockett and Uller. Unfortunately, Winchester ain't gonna be able to fish with us again because he's got a prior engagement again for this one. But those 3 teams, they're vying for that team of the year, and there's a possibility there that Legg and Rice or Crockett and Uller could knock them off of the top seat there. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope y'all have enjoyed listening to us talk about Cherokee, previewing Douglas. Again, drop us a comment, things you'd like for us to talk about. If you got questions, drop them in the comments. We'll answer those throughout the week whenever we get around to those. But we love hearing back from you all. Again, we hope you've enjoyed this. Kelsey, send us out with some words of wisdom, brother. What are your words of wisdom going into Douglas?
Just be careful. The lake's getting low. Watch out for those little shoals that come up in certain places.
And based on Dad's medium-paced retrieve, turn and burn, boys. Let's go and catch them.